I'm going to show you some of the rods that you can use today for ice fishing. If you notice that ice fishing rods are shorter, just makes it easier because you can sit right next to the hole and fish with it. But you don't have to get fancy with an ice fishing rod. This is pretty simple one here. It's a simple wooden handle with a little simple line winder. This is great for shallower water, smaller fish like panfish, and for kids because they don't have to deal with a reel. So it makes it quite simple. All they have to do is wrap the line. Very simple little rod, and you'll catch just as many fish on this as you will an expensive rod. The next one, another one that's pretty reasonably priced. Just has a simple little, sort of like a level line reel that just wraps the line. Got a little nut here that just tighten it down, loosen it up, and you can reel it. Once again, great for kids that are just learning, great for beginners, and extremely reasonably priced. Once again, it'll catch just as many as the expensive ones. This one's just a little different. It's more like a level line reel. Just a little more step up from the other one. It actually has, some of them have a drag on them. This one's pretty simple. It doesn't have a drag, real simple, just a little turn. And you're lowering the line down and just bringing it back up. This is the good old tried and true spin cast reel. We all fished these when we were kids. And they work great for ice fishing too. You can get a smaller reel that fits your little rod. And I just love a spin cast reel. With kids, there's nothing to go wrong. It's easy to reel it down, reel it back up. And the beauty of it with ice fishing is you're not casting. So you don't have to deal with snarls and tangles and teaching them how to cast. All they're going to do is press the button, lower the line, click the reel, and when they're ready, reel it back in. Real simple. The only drawback is if it's really cold, sometimes it has a tendency to get ice in it and jam up. But for the majority of your beginning ice fishing, this is perfect right here. Okay, this is a spinning reel. A lot of you more experienced fishermen are experienced with the spinning reel. It's a smaller version of what you use in the summertime. Once again, it's great because you don't have to cast. But for you that like your spinning reels, this is perfect. This is great for if it's colder. It's less likely to ice up as a spin cast reel. And they're also very reasonably priced. Covered with snow. This is kind of one of the newest versions of ice fishing if you want to spend, $50, $60 on a reel. It's called a free fall reel. I had to kind of look because it's new. And it's just very simple. You just push this little button, it free falls, and then it just has a big reel. You just reel it back in. It has a drag, so you can set the drag. And the advantage of this is going to be when you're fishing deeper water or when you're fishing maybe larger fish like walleye, catching bigger walleye. But it'll also work for your little panfish. So you can spend as much or as little as you want. But what we're just trying to stress is you don't have to go crazy spending a lot of money to get into ice fishing.
All right, in order to catch fish, we got to get through the ice. And one of the most inexpensive ways is a hand auger. And with this, it's kind of a fun thing to do with kids too. If the fish aren't biting, they like to drill some holes. So really got to push down hard with this. I like to use my dominant hand with that side. And then just start pushing, but not push too hard to where you can hear that grinding sound. And let that slowly work its way down. Get a little bit of a workout, but you'll be fishing in no time. The next option is run by your brushless drill that you're going to have at home. It does need to be a brushless motor, and then you get a lithium battery as well. That's going to have enough power for this thing to drill in there. You're going to be really lightweight and not too expensive. The next model we have is a pretty sweet little deal. Being electric, and that's electric, you're not gonna run a gas auger and fill those fumes in your ice hut. So it's really nice to drill a hole pretty quietly by just pushing a couple of buttons. You'll drill your hole, and then it even has a reverse feature on that to be able to drill backwards and shove all that ice back down through the hole. All right, another way to get a lot more lines out, cover a lot more water, is tip ups. And this first style just sits on either side of the hole, has a little reel right here that turns this little T at the top. And as that turns, flag goes up, indicating you have a fish. This one's exactly the same, it just has a little circular top to it that covers the ice hole so that it doesn't freeze up as easy. Same thing, flag goes up, indicate you got a fish, run over there and reel it on in.
It can get to be a pretty long day out on the ice, and your feet can get pretty chilly if you're out there for a long time and the fish aren't biting. So it's pretty nice to have something to sit on. And especially if you're fishing with old people or little kids or people in between those two ages. So if you have a bucket, you can put all your gear in the bucket to carry it out here. And you can even get one of these fancy little cushion seats to sit on with the hole in here, so as you catch your fish, you can stick your fish right in there, or you can reach down in there and get your sandwich and your snack. So that's kind of a handy one because it helps carry things. This one here is a little fold up and it swivels, so you can be watching your tip ups like we talked about earlier, so you can swivel and kind of keep an eye on all of your rods. And this one right here is wonderful for people who need some back support. This one is great because it has a little flapperdoodle here that is an extra cushion you can put right there. You can sit down and lean back, and it's awesome.
All right, one of the most important tools you can have on the ice is this shovel. It's going to come in handy quite a bit, especially if you get stuck later on and getting out, and that happens. But this shovel I'm using here for removing the ice around the hole. If we leave it like this, that ice is just going to keep falling into the hole. So I try and find where that prevailing wind is coming in, and I'll start shoveling that ice around the hole that way. If this is a hole that is left outside, I want to put my little mound on that side. And since a lot of times it's slush, you can create a bit of a wind break for your ice hole, and that'll give you another half hour or so of not freezing up. Then we can get our ice scoop in here and start slowly removing all of that slush. That is just going to make things difficult to get your line down the hole. Oftentimes people want to kind of move fast with it, but using an ice scoop is actually kind of a slow process. Get that ice hole all cleaned out, and you're about ready to fish.
So I'll show you a little bit of ice fishing tackle, just kind of the basic ice fishing tackle that we're using today. We like to fish with bobbers, so these little slip ice fishing bobbers are really nice. You're going to need bobber stops to go with them, but they're nice and the foam helps keep them from getting too iced up. You can also use a regular clip-on bobber if you wish. And then here's those bobber stops I was telling you about. We're fishing mostly panfish today, perch today, and a few trout. So these little ice fishing jigs that you can pick up, you don't have to buy fancy ones. Some of them are pretty small. It kind of depends. You need to figure out what you're targeting. If you're targeting bluegills or smaller panfish like these perch, then you're going to want something like this that's quite small with a small hook. And then what you're going to do is put the jig on the line, and you're going to put a little piece of bait on that. If you're going for something larger, like today we're fishing for trout, we're trying also for trout, a little jig like this is nice. It's weighted, it's flashy colors, and then we'll put a minnow or a minnow head on that and jig it up and down and try to fish it just right off the bottom. So a little simple fishing jig like this. You can also just go, we get these at Walmart. And I got a whole bundle of them here, but these just small, simple fishing jigs, just to give it a little weight to get it down to the bottom. But you do have to put some kind of bait on the hook to attract the fish. If you're fishing bigger fish like walleye, deeper in the lake, then of course you're going to want a heavier, larger weighted jig like that. And you're going to once again put bait on that. And then you can't go wrong, of course, with the plain hook. If you're fishing some kind of bait like minnows, a plain hook with weight, you're still going to need some weight. So just good old simple split shot will work just perfect. So this is kind of a hodgepodge of fishing equipment. You always want these little weights. These are the ones we showed you earlier to use to clip on your line to find the depth of the water. So I always have a bundle of them in here. And then of course the clippers. The clippers is really handy for clipping your line and putting your new jig on there. And that's all you really need for fishing, for ice fishing.
For bait, the best thing to do is to go to your local bait shop, chat with them. Oftentimes you'll find fishing reports online. Social media groups will post those sorts of things too. But there's so many various baits that you can use. Sometimes it's not worth using minnows, and sometimes it's better to use waxworms. So getting that fishing report is really important. But otherwise, minnows are great. The best thing to do for ice fishing is make sure you got an insulated bucket. We've got a bucket here. It's got an insulated minnow bucket inside there, and our minnows are doing great. Get a little minnow scoop so that your fingers don't get wet. Another really great thing for your bait is a bait puck, and inside there we have our little red dyed maggots. You can also use wax worms, and there's various types of little worm critters that you can have. So that's live bait, but those can be attached to the lures or bear hooks or whatever is working at that lake. So get a hold of some people that have been fishing or at the bait shop and find out what's working, and they'll point you in the right direction.